We would like to introduce to you, hopefully, our next governor of the state of Wisconsin, Scott Walker. Thank you. And you're absolutely right. I tweeted to my 30,000 friends about that article the day it came out, because we've all known for years that Mary Williams is an extraordinary person and a great state representative. She's a great advocate on small businesses, on tours, all sorts of things. As if you didn't have a million and a half reasons to send her back to Madison. Anybody who reads that story understands just what a joke her opponent is. And so you need to pass that on.
Yeah.
You absolutely need to pass it on, because there couldn't be a starker contrast, I think, in any legislative race in the state. It is good to be back in Rusk County. It's good to be back in Ladysmith. It's actually good to be back in this place right here. I literally, not just on the campaign trail, and have been to many Lincoln Days and other great events, but years ago, some of you know I do a Harley ride around the state of Wisconsin, and one of our stops a few years back was not long after Carol and John. I'll try that again. After Carol and, you know what? I'll talk loud.
I'll go see if I can.
That's right. A few years ago, after Carol and John opened up here, we came into town, and as part of our ride, a lot of our guys are veterans, so we paid tribute down by the river to the monument for the three brave heroes we've lost from this county back years ago as part of the war, and certainly appreciate the commitment of each of those families, and we had the honor of coming here afterwards to have the exceptional buffet that they have, and know how great this is. Oh, I guess they're testing it now, right? So it's great to be back in town, and even as a kid, a lot of you may not know this. You've seen me maybe up here as a candidate before or on the Lincoln Day circuit, but as a kid, when I grew up in the small town of Delavan, I was involved in Scouts. Proud to say I actually became an Eagle Scout. But for a year in the summer, I worked at a camp just outside of town here in Rusk County called Two Bear Scout Reservation. So we'd sometimes hitch a ride in the town and come into Ladysmith and other places. So that was about 30 years ago, so it's a long time back. But it's good to be back in town and back in the county. I'm running for governor because I love this state. And I believe in Wisconsin. But I believe this governor and his liberal allies in Madison are taking the state in the wrong path. And it's about time we stand up and take our government back. What do you think? As I mentioned, I grew up in Delavan. It's a town about 8,000 down in Walworth County. And when I grew up down there, I had all sorts of great influences. My dad was a minister. I guess that makes me the son of a preacher man. That'd be a good record. But my dad and mom raised my brother and I. They were great influences. I was involved in sports and Scouts, like I mentioned. 25 years ago, I went to a program the American Legion puts on called Badger Boys State. Actually, was one of the two young men that went out to Washington in that program as well. And people say, aha, that's how you got interested in politics. Well, I had a little bit of an influence, but more than anything, the veterans who put that program on instilled in us the importance of public service. And that's something that's still very important to me today. But probably my most endearing influence growing up was my grandmother. My grandmother was raised during the Great Depression. She and my grandfather raised my mother on a farm where they didn't have indoor plumbing until my mother went off to high school. And back in 1974, my grandmother became a widow. And from that point all the way through until she passed away not long ago in her mid-90s, she lived by herself, cooked her own food, paid her own bills, did all the things that she did all throughout her life, was very self-sufficient and very frugal because she had to be. In fact, my brother and I often laugh when we were kids. We'd go out to eat with her. Sorry, Mary, it was McDonald's, but it was still pretty good food. We'd go out to eat with her. We'd go out to eat at McDonald's, and see, now Mary's going to be upset I had to say that loud on a microphone. We'd go out to a fast food restaurant with her, with my grandmother. Is that better? And she literally would have so many coupons, I swear to God, we got paid to eat there. But that's right. But you know, that's the way she was, because she had to be. And I like to think a lot of that rubbed off on me. I call myself frugal. My wife, Toinette, just calls me cheap. But one way or the other, that's who we are. And throughout the years back when I was serving the state legislature, I still have the Saturn I bought commuting back and forth from Wauwatosa to Madison. It's got over 100,000 miles on it. My kids who now ride want me to sell the car and buy a new one so they can get that, but it still works, so I still use it. And about 25 years ago, well, a little bit less than that, but about 20, I guess it was exactly 24 years ago, I moved up to the Milwaukee area to go to Marquette University. And because we didn't have a lot of money, I worked all sorts of odd jobs to pay for school. I sold food, I cleaned bathrooms. Eventually I got lucky and I got a job selling warranty agreements at IBM. And it took all the money I had at that point to buy a suit and a tie. And it didn't dawn on me everybody goes out to eat there when they go to work. So instead I'd pack a lunch every day. And then later when I worked at the American Red Cross, I still packed a lunch. And after that, I served in the legislature for about 8.5 years, and I packed a lunch. And today, on most days, if you come and see me at the courthouse, I still pack the same lunch. In fact, I call it predictable. My wife calls it work. Now, the reason I tell you that is not to tell you about my diet, but rather to point out that there are people like me all across the state. People here, and all. In fact, today I had one of those short days. I was in Eau Claire in the morning. I was up in Douglas County mid-morning. I was back down in Barron County early afternoon. I just came from Washburn County, and then after this I'm going to get home in time to enforce curfew tonight at 11 with my 2 teenage sons down in Wauwatosa. So it's one of those short days. But as I travel the state in places like that and all the others across Wisconsin, what I find is there's people who in these tough economic times are trying to save money in our homes, with our families and our businesses all over our communities. And I, for one, would like a government that has to save money like the rest of us. Wouldn't you? I call it a little bit of brown bag common sense. 3 simple principles. One my grandmother would love. Don't spend more money than you have. It'd be nice if Madison and Washington were right about that. Secondly, smaller government is better government. And you can laugh at that too, sure. And third, this is really important for the governor, for the president, even for the mayor of Milwaukee to understand, and that is people create jobs, not the government.
That's right.
You see, too many politicians have that all mixed up. They think the government creates jobs. The government doesn't create jobs. Government creates an environment that's either better or worse, positive or negative. And right now down in Madison, we've got a governor who makes it more negative to create jobs in the state of Wisconsin. I've got a simple message for him. Come November 2nd, the rest of us don't have to be afraid anymore because help is on the way. And I'm not talking about the kind of blind hope we hear out of Washington. I'm talking about real hope based on a real plan to get this state working again. Things like cutting taxes on employers, on individuals, capping off property taxes, even phasing out state taxes on retirement income. Because I'm tired of seeing too many of my friends go down to Florida and Arizona and Texas and Tennessee and other places. I know that's not only people being lost, it's money being lost that can be invested in Wisconsin businesses to create Wisconsin jobs. As governor, I'm going to cut taxes across the board to get this economy going. Secondly, we've got to cut through the red tape. I talk to small business owners all the time. Mary, you know this firsthand, not just from the legislature, but from your business. The bottom line is the regulations in the state are killing us. The few we have should be science-based and predictable. The ones we have today are all over the map, and it's not just in local ordinances and requirements. It's the DNR attacking our property rights. It's the DNR attacking our rights as sportsmen and sportswomen. I mean, I for one would like a DNR that allowed me to see another deer in my deer stand come this next year, because they actually paid things to like delisting the wolf population and things like actually not going after earn a buck and other issues like that. We need a DNR and other state agencies that understand those essential issues and the importance of protecting our heritage in this state. We've got to cut through the cost of frivolous lawsuits. If you look across the country at the states that have seen job growth in the past couple of years, it's the state with lower taxes, fewer regulations, and true tort reform. Those are the states that not only see more jobs, but better economies, and in turn, better state budgets. I want to be one of those states in 2011 and beyond. Besides those 3 principles, there's 3 other quick ones. I want to have a world-class education system. But for me, and that's real important, because there's thousands of reasons to be for that. I have 2. Matt and Alex, those are my 2 sons. For every one of you who's a parent or a grandparent or just cares about kids, we know it's a moral imperative, whether it's at a public school, a private school, a homeschool environment, every kid in this state deserves access to a great education system. But we also know as employers it's an economic imperative. And the answer to moving us forward so we continue to have a great education system is not necessarily throwing more money at it, it's making better use of the dollars we have. And it's making sure we reward excellence.